So finally, we come to the applied part of applied meditation, what to meditate on. What to meditate on? Lam Rim. Everyone say Lam Rim?
Lam Rim.
That means steps of the path or stages of the path. It means the path to enlightenment. It is a tradition, a way of teaching that summarizes the entire Buddhist path in an outline. And every Buddhist teaching you could possibly run across fits in that outline somewhere. And each of the steps in the steps to the path is also called a Lam Rim. So what are you studying? Lam Rim. Which Lam Rim are you on? Oh, Precious Human Rebirth. Oh, okay. It contains all 5 books that are studied in the 20-year Tibetan monastery curriculum. When you look at it, it's like, and you get more familiar with it, it's like personal advice. It's like, yeah, you know what? I need to work on this. I know this is part of the Buddhist path, but I did another one of my nifty outlines, and there's also a huge expanded outline in your reading, everything on the path to enlightenment. In the monasteries, they study, obviously, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, Prajnaparamita, say Prajnaparamita just for the blessing. All Sanskrit. And then they drill down more with the middle way philosophy, or Madhyamaka, say Madhyamika? Madhyamika. Okay. And of course they study their vows, the vowed morality, that's Vinaya. And they study all the earliest scriptures about Buddhist cosmology, about meditation, about the stages, which is called Abhidharma, or this is Abhidharma, higher knowledge? Abhidharma. Okay. And they study, which hardly anyone in the West knows about, logic and perception. We were playing a little bit of debate before class. Someday I want to teach you guys it, because it just really sharpens your mind and helps you solve some problems, answer some questions. That's pramana. Say pramana? Pramana. Okay? So all of that is in Lam Rim, and just a hint of Tantra, the higher teachings, like finding out who Tara is. All right? In your text, but also I've printed out for your easy use, is, what is here, like 14 stanzas that Jade Tsongkhapa wrote, and it is an entire Lam Rim. It's a short one. The parts of the book we have been studying is a great book on the stages of the path, but here is a poem called The Source of All My Good. The entire Buddhist path in 14 stanzas. How cool is that? Okay. Very good for memorization or recitation. You could need that someday. Brian doesn't get a copy? Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you did. I see what you did there. So if anyone were to ask you, so what books that are studied in the monastery are included in Lam Rim? Then it would be all 5 of those different topics that monks spend 20 years studying. Different amount for different things, okay? And then in the end, there's a hint of Tantra in there, which we'll talk about towards the end of classes. It's once I've bless me that once I've something the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, the highest of all ways. The highest of all ways for the fortunate and the good. Which is a natural outcome of your study, okay? A lot of people claim that Tantra is just some stuff that was made up later, or it's when Buddhism became Hinduized, but it's there and it works, and it's a path commended by all of our teachers. It's really fun when you get into higher teachings. You've been reading all of these very scholarly monk things about vowed morality and meditation and all that. And then you study, it's like, okay, so who's explaining Tantra to us? Oh, it's the same guys. It's like they take off their masks, you know, it's like, yes, and I'm a Tantric yogi. So it's pretty cool, but getting too far ahead. So, stages of the path, Lam Rim. The beginning of this poem is, this poem is called The Source of All My Good, also called Begging for a Mountain of Blessings. Now, in the reading, you'll notice that the last, 200 pages is actually a book. It's actually a book that was published called Preparing for Tantra. And it's Pabonka Rinpoche's commentary on this 14 stanzas that I just handed out to you. And it's great. As he's describing it, he's pulling out quotes, you know, from here and there. It's like, oh, and Lord Atisha said this, and Master Shanti Deva said that. And of course, Jade Tsongkhapa said in another book of this, all embroidering on 1 or 2 lines in there. And then, on top of that, I should say the first, say, 150 pages of the reading that begins here is Pabonka Rinpoche's commentary. And then there's almost another 100 pages that are footnotes. I mean, this text, Pabonka Rinpoche's text, is plastered with footnotes. And then that is Ken Rinpoche and Geshe Michael's explanation of what he's saying. Because again, he's talking to monks and says, and that's of course like the story of riding backwards on a yak into the sunset. Ha 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 ha, let's move on. And then there'll be a footnote, you know, and then they'll explain what that story is. Because obviously we don't, you know, live in early 20th century Tibet and we don't know these things. And we don't need to know what riding, and there's not a real riding backwards on a yak into the sunset, but just as an explanation that these metaphors and similes that they use all have meaning for us. So, the very beginning of Lam Rim, it's called Begging for a Mountain of Blessings, or Source of All My Good, and it begins, the source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord, which is going to get, oh, let me tell a little story about how this was written before we get into the text. It was written by Jade Tsongkhapa, as I mentioned, about 1402, and he was at Radren Monastery. Obviously, so he's what? He was born in 1357, good. So, you know, he's getting to be 40 or 50, he's been practicing a lot. He really wants this thing to take off, so he goes to the statue of Lord Atisha, or Jowoje, as I wrote his Tibetan name because I ran out of room. Lord Atisha, as you may recall, a king had him come up from India about 10 or 1100 AD, and was like, look, you know, we need teachers up here. Buddhism's been here for, you know, a couple hundred years, but it's looking a little weird. We need, he's calling him like the sheriff to come and straighten up the town. And so Lord Atisha, it's the first known Tibetan version of Stages of the Path. He wrote a book called Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment. And that was the main teaching. And he did a lot of other things. From Lord Atisha's students came the Kagyu lineage. The lineage that began before that was the Nima, the old ones. So you have 2 lineages coming out of this. Anyway, back to Jade Tsongkhapa, you know, 400 years later. So he's like, I really need help, you know, he's begging, and he does, like, I don't know, tons of prostrations in front of the picture of Lord Atisha. And from what I understand, if you read Jade Tsongkhapa's biography, it gets a little boring because he went to this place and he made all these prayers, and then he went to that place and did all these prostrations, and he did all the, you know, it's like, wait, what's the cool part about teaching and founding monasteries, and, you know, and there are cool stories. But the reason all these miracles happened was because of things like this. It's just like, I'm just going to go to the statue of Lord Atisha, and I'm just going to pray and pray and pray that I really get a blessing for understanding this stuff. And so he did, and then at some point he like falls into this trance at the foot of the statue, and he's just sitting there staring, and people are like, dude, are you okay? You know, like for days. And he says, or it said in it, all of the teachers of the stages of the path, from Lord Buddha up through Lord Atisha, his students, all of them came and gave him teachings while he was like in this meditation and taught him stages of the path. And he came out of it and he wrote this short Lam Rim that contains everything, that has the whole Buddhist path in these 14. So this is where this book comes from. It's profound. Oh, and then he went on and wrote the great book on the stages of the path, where everything is broken out in great detail and how it's personal advice. When you go back and read the parts about the stages of meditation that he writes, it's like you can almost feel that he's there talking to you, you know. It's like, and don't worry if you think, you know. So it's really nice. So what is the structure of this text? It starts off with the root of the path, how to take a lama. All right, how to get the teacher. How do you get Cox Communications into your house? You need a cable guy, okay? You need someone to bring the teachings to you, and that is the teacher, and it is the root of the path. We'll talk about that a lot more in a minute or two. Next, the second part is, okay, so what does the teacher tell you? What does the Lama tell you? How to practice, how to purify your mind, okay? And this goes through the three scopes of a Buddhist practitioner. It goes through the preliminaries to that, you know, it goes basically, that's the meat of it. What do I do to practice? What's your advice? Then the last part is sort of a prayer of requesting help, okay? And by the way, if someone were to ask you, it's in this text, like every stanza begins, bless me to see, or bless me to understand, bless me. What do you mean bless me, okay? That is, we were talking about, you know, what's a prayer and a dedication. That is, you're opening yourself to having a higher capability, a higher aptitude for understanding this stuff. So that's why it's saying bless me. Every time you say bless me, okay, even though the teachers can't do it for you, okay, it's not like in the Matrix where they just like plug into the back of your skull and like, okay, I need a helicopter program, or, you know, wow, I know Kung Fu. You have to do it yourself, but at least by saying bless me, you're like, you know, okay, I'm ready for the download, okay? So you request help, and then you dedicate at the end to meet teachers and to achieve the goals. All right, so let's talk about the root of the path, how to take a lama. This topic has a couple of problems, okay? And I'll get to the Tibetan and all that in a bit. But there's a couple of problems here. For one thing, when you're sitting up at the front of the room, it almost sounds self-serving, you know? Like you're saying, oh, Lama should have this quality, like me, you know? And it's like, no, if you're teaching when you are sitting in the front of the room, and I hope you all will, you want to try and have these characteristics that we're talking about, all right? By the way, how do you meet teachers that have these characteristics? You practice those characteristics yourself, okay? Long story, all right? So there's a problem of it's awkward to teach this because it sounds self-serving. The second part is, here in the West, we're rugged individualists, right? All of our movies are about the lone hero who, you know, takes on the army, him or herself, you know, stops all the zombies, stops the aliens, whatever, you know, without any help. They just like, someone's got to do it, I'm going to do it, you know, off they go, okay? The old John Wayne thing, right? Now, we know that's like BS, okay? Nobody ever got good at anything without help, all right? Without a teacher. Now, 3 of the 4 people here are martial artists, you know. And again, those come from the East, right? Where it's like, you go to a teacher. You want to be good at anything, you go to a teacher. And that is the truth, isn't it? You want to be good at music? You know? You need someone to show you the way, all right? You can't just have, you know, tapes and videos and books and then sit there with your guitar or your drums or anything like that, you know. You want to be good, you need that hands-on hands kind of thing, okay? Isn't that true? And you know what? And this gets awkward, this how to take a Lama and then the reverence for the Lama. It's like the early English people who described Tibetan Buddhism, they said, I don't know, it doesn't look like Buddhism to me, chop it. They worship their lamas, it looks like Lamism. And they call it Lamism, okay? But it's not about worship, okay? Worshipping somebody who's good at something will not make you good at something, okay? You have to do what they show you to do, all right? I think the best Christians are Christians who are trying to be like Christ and doing what he does, not just worshipping him, okay? I don't know, it's like, suppose you won a contest, like you get guitar lessons from Eddie Van Halen or something, you know, I don't know, just feel some. It's like, it's really great. So you go to the studio and Eddie's there and you're going, Eddie, you're so great. You're like my hero. And he says, oh, yeah, okay, well, thank you. Okay, well, let me show you some stuff. This is how you tune. It shows you some chords and all that. It's like, okay, we'll practice and come back next week, you know. And then you come back next week and you go, Eddie, you're so great. You're so awesome. You know, it's like, thanks, thanks. So how'd you do with those chords? Well, I didn't practice, but Eddie, you're so great, you know, okay? So this is how you take a llama, all right? Yeah, faith and admiration. You have to really like how they play guitar or play the drums or roll or do whatever, okay? And you say, I want that, I want that. This is the faith and admiration part, okay? The next part is, oh, and that's Depa Jangwa. Say Depa?
Depa.
Jangwa. Developing faith and admiration for them. The next thing you do when you have a llama is Sanpei Tenpa. Say Sanpei Tenpa.
Tenpa.
How to think about them. Okay? How to think. How to keep your llama in your thoughts. All right? Once you find a teacher, it's very easy to say, yeah, they're good, but they do that thing, you know? You start, maybe they're not that good, okay? Doubts will come up, believe me, especially if you go to the desert thinking you have this rock star llama that's so awesome, and strange things happen, and you go, what have I done, okay? You have to believe that once someone takes you as a student, you know, they're going to put you through the ringer. All right, and it will be hard, okay? We had that, you know, the original 80s Karate Kid, you know? It's like, I want to learn karate. Okay, go paint the fence, you know, paint the fence, you know? Wax on, wax off, you know? It's like, this crazy old man's making me do this stupid stuff. I want to learn karate. We know how the story goes, right? Okay. Think that everything they're doing is some kind of teaching. And then how to act towards them. These two kind of go together. The result of this, these are kind of subdivisions of like, how do you develop faith and admiration? It's how you think about them and how you act towards them. And the acting is actually just doing what they say, all right? Has Sifu Harris never asked you to do something that you don't want to do? No, sometimes they will, okay? This is how you get good, okay? It's for you, all right? The llamas don't need you. They like, you know, that's another classic thing in the, you know, the old warriors, like, I'm old, but I will take one more student, you know. It's a hassle for them, all right? It really is a hassle for them. But what happens out of that is you develop reverence for them. That's, oh, I'm sorry, how to act towards them. Jorway? Tenpa. And that leads to Gupa, say Gupa? Kepa. Sorry for the scroll, it was getting late when I was doing this. This is you develop reverence for them, okay? And if you just keep thinking of the good qualities of your llama, your teacher, your, you know, whatever, it's really good for your mind, and it's the beginning of the path. Now, I was sitting, had to wait in a waiting room somewhere, and I thought about some other stuff, too, about teachers, okay? And here's the problem in the West, you know, there's fake gurus, there's people who are charismatic. So I made like this list, you know, it's like, and I hope this is Jason Kapian. He will actually describe what something is by describing everything it's not, okay? So a teacher, it's not necessarily the title, okay? You go to a teaching and it's somebody Rinpoche or Tulku somebody or Lama blah blah blah, okay? Geshe Michael told a story about, you know, and Geshe Michael lived with his Lama for like 20 years, 30 years, and saw all kinds of things. And so one guy came to study with Ken Rinpoche for a while, came to a talk and all of that, and talked to him afterwards, you know. Ken Rinpoche, you know, I've been studying different people, and I've got the Dharma transmission from blah, 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 and I'm Sifu something and this thing, and it's like, you know, I would like to be a Geshe too. You know, it's like, a Geshe is like a double divinity degree. It's like after 20 years in the monastery, sometimes you get to be a Geshe, you know, at the end of that. And, you know, Geshe Michael's kind of snickering, and this guy's asking to, you know, be given the title of Geshe. Ken Rinpoche said, get me paper. And he just wrote, You are now Geshe blah blah blah. So this guy could go around saying, I am now Roshi, Geshe, Sensei, you know, whatever, you know, and it's hilarious. Yeah, Sifu. So title does not a teacher make, okay? So when you see on the Buddhist news, Tolku blah 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 is coming, don't worry about it, okay? Robes, just because someone is ordained does not make them a good teacher. It doesn't even make them a good Dharma student, all right? They just have their robes. Of people I know who are ordained, I can think of one or maybe two that are full-on polyunsaturated D-bags, okay? They are not good people. I know their history, I know what they're still like, okay? And people, one I'm talking about in particular, me and another friend are like, you know, what was Geshe Michael thinking to ordain this guy, you know? And we thought about it, and we debated it, and we finally realized, you know what? Sometimes these teachers figure somebody is better off for future lives to be a D-bag with broken vows than they are just being a D-bag, okay? It says in the vowed morality, you know, even if you break your vows, it doesn't mean you lose your vows, it means you're like someone who has a vast treasury but a huge debt. All right, so someone who takes the vows, even though they're jerks, it's good for them. And lamas will actually, if they ask and they are determined, then they'll do it, okay? So just because someone comes in and they're venerable this or venerable that, does not mean they're a good person. When you take a teacher, you will become like them for better or worse, all right? So it has to be somebody, it's like, I want to be like them. I want to have what they're having, all right? What else? Book learning. Okay, there are a lot of professors of Buddhist stuff and things like that. You can go to their talks, you can read their books. The books are written in an academic language and it's very hard to understand sometimes, you know. But you can learn a lot, technically. Sometimes it doesn't have a lot of heart in it and it's not something that strikes you as personal advice. And sometimes just book learning or academic stuff isn't gonna... Another example, okay? Someone comes to Geshe Michael, there's a new translation of Jade Tsongkhapa's commentary on Arya Nagarjuna's Root Wisdom. This is like the best thing in the world, okay? Arya Nagarjuna is more or less the founder of the Middle Way, or the one who brought it out. And Jade Tsongkhapa, of course, is the best commentator ever. Geshe Michael's been meaning, you know, to get around to translating this, but there's so much stuff to translate. That's why I throw this Tibetan out there. Maybe it'll plant a seed. There's lots of Sanskrit scholars. Anyway, I digress. So they bring Geshe Michael his translation. He kind of rolls his eyes and he says, let me see it, okay? That's why he translates all of his own stuff, because a lot of the translations out there sucks. But he starts reading, he goes, throw it away. Why? Okay, look, the guy is saying, Jade Tsongkhapa is saying how through denying the self, okay? It shouldn't be denying the self, it should be denying a self. If you say denying the self, that means you're presuming there is a self or an entity to deny to begin with. He didn't say it in so few words, but he's explaining, you know. So if someone says denying the self, that means they think there's a self to deny. It should be a self that never existed, doesn't exist, and never will exist. These guys don't know what they're talking about. Throw it away. Okay. The point being, the academic stuff, if the meaning can change just with an a or a the, you know, I mean, and think about it, you know, you're reading, it says denying a self. A self. You know, it's different from the self, because you, of course, the self, you know, but a self, one that never did exist, doesn't exist, never will exist, but it appears as existing, that's really different. So, book learning does not a good teacher make. What else? Asian. Okay, you gotta realize, India, China, all of those places are some of the poorest places in the world, okay? If you're from one of those places and you can get a ticket to the United States and call yourself Tolku blah 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 or Sifu this or something that, you know, you have it made, all right? So everyone who, you might assume if someone is Asian and they're Hang Shi something or Dorje Tenpei something, you know, oh, they're Tibetan, they must have something to teach, you know. Ain't necessarily the case, okay? Yeah, anybody who's Tibetan, okay, who has a last name of Tenzin or something, could come probably and bring more people to a class because, oh, their name is Tenzin Dorje, you know, instead of Jim Day, who's that? You know, he's just this guy, okay? So that does not a good teacher make, you know, you got to check people out. Finally, charming, charismatic, okay? Obviously, salespeople, con men, self-help guys or personal growth people, men and women, they obviously can make you feel good about yourself, and you want more because so much in this world is telling us that they're awful, that when someone says that you're great and you have infinite potential, you go, really? Tell me more. Okay? So all of those things do not make a teacher. All right? Necessarily. I'm not saying that a teacher can't have these things. They could be Asian in robes with a lot of book learning and very charming, and they could have a title. They could be a great teacher. I'm saying these things by themselves do not necessarily a teacher make. All right, that's not on the homework. That's just my editorial, but I wanted to share it with you. So, what does make a good teacher? We have some lists. Okay. We have 5 qualities of a Lama, and then we have 5 more qualities of a Lama. In other ACI courses, there's a classic 10 qualities of a Lama. They overlap, they interweave. Okay. First thing that you want to look for, and it was getting late when I did this, so they're out of order. The first thing is Soltrim ki tuk dul. Say Soltrim.
Soltrim
Ki tuk dul.
ki tuk dul.
Okay, dual, there it is again. That's part of dulwa, taming, either taming the mind, okay? Soltrim, ethics, ethical way of life. This is someone who controls himself with morality. That's what you want to look for, okay? Which isn't to say, okay, at this point someone could always bring up Trungpa Rinpoche, right? Crazy guy, crazy man, all right? I can't say that his craziness and his wild parties and all of that were not skillful means to bring attention to Tibetan Buddhism in America. Because look what came out of that. What's her name?
Pema
Chodron. Awesome, beautiful, brilliant teacher. Devout student of Trungpa Rinpoche's. Okay, but still, in a teacher, all right, it's starting off, leave the wild yogis alone. Unless you're really attracted to that, it could be a path. I should say, all right, if you have devotion towards a teacher, it doesn't matter if they're good or bad, okay? You could have a sock monkey as a teacher. It is your devotion that improves your mind, all right? But having said that, look for someone who controls themselves well with morality, okay? The next one is Tingye Zin. Say Tingye Zin. Anyone know what that means? Who did their homework? Who on question 1 about different words for meditation? Okay, this is concentration or meditation. Tingye Zin. Gitukdul. Say Gitukdul. Controls themselves well with concentration. Because if they can't, then what was I saying? No. Okay. Someone who's good, you know, pretty good with meditation, and it shows in their world, in their life, and everything. You know, there's this rumor that good meditators are very tidy. Okay, one of the great teachers I know, Lama Chukyi. Her place is always a mess. You know, we hear Geshe Michael saying, yes, and a sign of a clean place is a sign of a good, steady mind. And Lama Chukyi's just always like, you know, kind of like curling up and stuff. She's great, but, and I know she's a brilliant meditator. I don't know why her apartment's the way it was. She's on retreat now, 3-year retreat. So you know she's a good meditator. She better be. Anyway, someone who controls themselves well with concentration. And then the next would be Shera Ki Tukdru. Say Shera.
Shera
Ki Tukdru.
ki tuk dul.
Okay, someone who controls himself well with wisdom. Meaning that they understand where the world's coming from, understand emptiness a little bit, I don't know, you know, they're not going to complain so much about this person or that thing or this situation, because if they know where things are coming from, they know they're an idiot for meditating. I mean, for complaining. And they should be meditating on the, why is this appearing to me? Okay. These three together are the three main practices for the medium scope Buddhist. How to get out of samsara, training in morality, gives you better concentration or meditation, which gives you greater wisdom, which the wiser you are, the more you're going to be ethical, which, you know, this is the upward spiral. This is the updraft you catch to get out of samsara, okay? So teachers should look for those things. You can't read their mind, but look for those things. In the list of 10 qualities of a Lama, I always remember the first 3 too, are Dolwa, Shiwa, Nirshiwa. Dolwa, tamed, controlled. That's the ethics. Shiwa, peaceful, for meditation. Nirshiwa, very peaceful, through wisdom. Okay, so besides these 3, they should have Deni Topa. Say Deni?
Deni
Topa.
Topa.
All right, this literally means realization of emptiness. Does that mean you have to have a teacher who has seen emptiness directly, who is on their way to, and it's great if you can. It's really great if you can. If not, someone who at least has a pretty darn good understanding of what it is and how it works, and doesn't say, it's kind of like the color blue, suffusing your mind, you know. What is emptiness? What is the lack of nature to things, okay? And they should have Sewe Dang Denpa. Say Sewe?
Sewe.
Dang Denpa.
Dang Denpa.
They should have love for their students, okay? Look out for narcissism. People who are just nice to you because they want you to like them, all right? People who really actually care. That makes a huge difference. I mean, I have no doubt about Geshe Michael. Whenever you go up and look at him, he's just looking at you like he's just totally in love with you and you're the most beautiful thing in the world, and it's disarming, and you're like, I forgot what I was going to say. You know, he does that with everyone. And they don't talk about whatever you want to talk about. My father got to meet him at a teaching of the Dalai Lama in Tucson. And my dad talked about the book, Diamond Cutter, Geshe Michael's business book. You know, and here we are, the Dalai Lama, there's monks and everything, and Geshe Michael just switched gears like that and started talking about work. Well, what kind of work do you do? You know, like my dad was like he's meeting the king, you know, and he loves everybody. I'll have what he's having. Okay, so I believe in the text somewhere, Tobunkar Rinpoche is saying, of course, people like this are so rare, and we almost never ever can meet them, but you still need a teacher. There's these other 5. Okay. Look for the quality of between this life and future lives. Okay, they're working mainly towards the future. All right? They're doing Dharma practice. Not to get 51 Rolls Royces, but, you know, it's like, look, teaching, you know, you guys, if you're meditating and studying and all of that, do think about teaching seriously. I mean, get good at this stuff, learn it well, step on a few landmines and know where they are, and pass it on, because people need this. They really do. And it is the best practice for you. You really don't learn this stuff till you have to teach it. Sometimes you still don't learn it well. You have to look things up. But, okay, but between this life and future lives, you're working mainly for future lives. And I believe I got this list out of order again. Go to the answer key. Between worldly things and Dharma things, they mostly have a Dharma attitude. Are they talking about the Charger football game, the car, the weather, the surfing, the stuff? Or they say, you know, it's funny, you know what the karma of that is, you know? They can always bring it back to Dharma, no matter what, okay? And that's what they do. That's their main thing, all right? So between worldly life, I love the Tibetan word for worldly, jikten, destructible basis, the thing that's going to disappear, the thing that's going to fall apart. That's their word for world, which is really great when you're trying to tell Tibetan you're working to save the world by recycling, you know. save the destructible thing? Well, good luck with it. Which is not to say that environmental stuff is bad, just because it's giving, it's not stealing. You're trying to give people who come after us a nice world. So it's a Dharma thing.
What's the word again? Jeek what?
Jeek 10. Jeek 10. Jeek 10. Like first line of 4th chapter of Abhidharma Kosha about karma. All the various worlds come from karma. That is movement of the mind and what that motivates.
Would you spell it for us?
Jikten. And I don't know the Tibetan spelling in it. It has a ja, has a ta, has a e. Okay. Qualities of a teacher. Taking care of others before themselves. I was at an airport in San Jose coming back from the first quiet retreat teaching, and lo and behold was the gold and the monk colors, gold and maroon van that belonged to Vajrapani Institute. And I thought, cool, my partner can't come for 3 hours to pick me up, maybe I could get a ride with them. And I go up to the van, and in the van I see this monk, and he's got a hat pulled down, and he's about to eat some trail mix, and then, but he sees out of his peripheral vision something coming to the window. It's like, and he hands it to me. And it turns out it wasn't just a monk, it was Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And, but like that, you're just eating, oh, you're hungry, you know, just like, boom, natural to him. I'm not that good. I'm really not that good. It's really hard. I was here early one morning and there was a crazy couple outside, camped right outside the door. And, you know, if I were Lama Zopa, I just would have gone out and talked to him, said, oh, God, were you warm enough? Here's some sandwiches, that, you know. I'm not that good. I gave them a little while, and they were like yelling at each other and like almost verbally abusive, a man and a woman. And I just opened the door and said, okay, you guys, pack it up. Time to go. It's time to go. You know, I'm just not that good. But Lama Zopa is, and again, I'll have what he's having. Not careless in thought, word, and deed. Okay, you don't know if they're careless in their thoughts or not because you can't read their mind, but what they say and what they do. All right, and finally, most importantly, they don't teach their students wrong paths. What is a wrong path? You could get really new agey and say, oh, all paths are one, all leads to the ultimate, you know. Maybe, or maybe a path is kind of worldly and it's just about feeling good right now and being happy and everything, which ultimately you do want to be happy. But look for a path that has a result that you really want, that's going to last forever, okay? What did Jesus say? Don't care about the things that moths corrupt, you know, or the very right in the beginning of the Bible, you know, the devil, Jesus' first lines, you know, the devil's like, I'll make you rich, I'll give you anything you want, you know, just come with me. And Jesus, and he's been on retreat for 40 days in the desert, right? And he says, man does not live on bread alone. You know, there's more important things to do than being rich and happy in this life. So those are some qualities to look for in the teacher. So the beginning of the poem begins, the source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path. And something, something. I got to memorize that again. I've lost it. I had it memorized once. I could recite it beginning to end. That is the beginning of Lam Rim. So what's the homework? It's probably, you know, think about your Lama or something like that, or think about how to relate to your Lama. And then next week, both classes are going to be, okay, so we have a teacher, let's say. What do they teach us? Bless me to see that the leisure and fortune I had, the life I have, oh man, I'm really, okay. I remember some parts really well. Bless me to see with genuine certainty all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I cannot get enough of them. They cannot, they cannot be trusted. They're the door to every pain I have. That's my favorite. That gets later on. But, oh, yeah. What do we get into? Bless me first to realize this excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are as fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what these deeds bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. There's so much meditation fodder in there, you know. Oh, life of leisure, how cool is it? We'll talk about it, you know. Sea froth in a wave, I've always loved that, especially when I lived in the desert. I miss the sea froth of a wave. But oh yeah, that's my life. Oh really? Oh, you know, what's this thing about death? Oh, karma, what's that? So we'll get into all of that over the next class, and that's all I have. So.
Our previous class went over the black and white deeds as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've got that information.
Got to get it through our head. So we hear it over and over and over again. Do that takedown over and over and over again till you get it right. All right, that's all I have. Let's cut the tape. How do we do for time?